So, it's another podcast edition, and this guy I've met only through, I think, expos mainly, but you might correct me, but I think it's mainly through meeting at expos. And I fundamentally believe the UK franchise industry need people like this guy. He's been nothing but help to me, conversations with me. We had a really good panel discussion with him at one of the expos, and generally just a really nice guy. So when I had the opportunity to ask him to come on the podcast, it was no question for me. But if you wouldn't mind, please just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yes, thanks, Ryan. Thanks for that introduction. So I'm Alan Wilkinson. I'm one of the partners and head of franchise development at the Franchising Centre. Been in franchising 28 years now.
Wow.
And with the Franchising Centre for 18.
Wow, really? I didn't even know I'd been going that long. That's a long time, that, isn't it?
Franchising Centre started 27 years ago.
27 years ago?
27 years.
No way, that's mad, that, isn't it?
Yeah. It's moved on significantly. I'm sure we'll get to talk about it. Yeah.
It's mad, that, and you wouldn't think, like, well, I don't know. I always think as like it's consultants, isn't it? That's the thing, innit? I always think consultancy is like something that's relatively new, but it's obviously been going on a long time.
Well, it's interesting. I'm happy to jump straight into that.
I'm just going to go with the flow because I've got some questions around it, so I'm going to go with it. Do you know what I mean? So that's it. Just go with the flow. There's no script or anything like that. It's just find out a bit more about it, really.
Okay. I mean, the Franchising Centre and franchise consultancy has just changed massively.
Yeah.
18 years ago, I started and I was recruiting franchisees.
Right.
Old school.
Yeah.
You know, you get an inquiry, you make a phone call.
Yeah.
3 days later, you make another phone call and send an email, and a week later, you send another and make another phone call. Yeah. That's old school recruiting. You know, not like we do now. Yeah. But then we also did training. Yeah. So we ran the various training courses. The Diploma in Franchise Management we ran. I got that in the year 2000. But if I roll forward, there's now so many other facets to the business. Yeah. So, yes, we recruit franchisees. We develop a business and turn it into a franchise. We recruit franchisees. Yeah. But then you're working with franchisors and you're recruiting their franchisees, and you realise there's holes in the business.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're weak at that, or they could do with that. So we started to run a support service, franchise relationship management. Yeah. So 3 or 4 or 5 of our guys are now in as franchise managers, franchise non-exec franchise directors for our businesses, and they'll go in and they'll do a day a week or a day a month, just to fill the gap. Often a franchisor is brilliant at what they do, but every franchisor has a weakness.
Yeah, of course.
Maybe you're not great at the hard discussions with franchisees, or those franchisees that are in breach and you don't really want to put it right. So we might go in as the bad guy, the bad cop. Yeah. Or they may need some help or support with sales or marketing or whatever. So wherever there's a gap, we can often go in and fill that gap. Cool, isn't it? But then historically, we've always had good relationships with all of the suppliers in the franchise industry. Yeah. So, we always know when we're taking a business and we're putting a franchise infrastructure around of them, they're going to need a lawyer. So we have the relationships with 3 or 4 or 5 BFA affiliated lawyers. Right. They're going to need mapping. So we have the relationships with the mapping companies. They're going to need a CRM system if they don't already have one, or a comms system if they don't already have one. Yeah. So historically, we've had those relationships, and then when we come to work with a client who wants to develop to become a franchise, often they're a small business, so they haven't got that infrastructure. No. So we'll then say, actually, let me introduce you to, because you need X, Y, or Z. Yeah. But then to take that to the next degree, particularly on the digital side, one of my more recent roles is working with TFC Digital. So we've now become a software house. So a franchisor may need a CRM system, they may need a comm system, they may need a digital marketing system. If they do, we now have a solution for them. Now, 18 years ago when I joined, there was none of that.
Yeah, I guess it was just selling franchises, weren't it?
Yeah, it was, I'll write your manual for you, I'll liaise with your lawyer for you, we'll write your marketing material for you. It's so different now, because franchisors are all different and business owners are also different. Yeah. So it's very difficult to sit down with somebody and say, this is what you need. You can say this is what you need, but what can you do yourself? Yeah. You might say, oh, well, I've got the skill and the time, or somebody in my team has got the skill and the time to write a franchise operating manual or to write the operations bits of it, but I don't know where to start. So we might work with them and provide a template and guide them and support them as an advisor or as a non-exec director, whatever it may be. Whatever the title, it doesn't matter. But we can work with them to use their skills. And of course, if they can do half of the work, our fees are half the size because we're putting half of the time in. But that's what that particular client wants and needs. Therefore, that's the way that we operate.
It must be not tricky, but it'd be like, I guess when you get a new small business that wants to franchise, you'd be like, right, X amount of money, we could do it all and fix it. But then you go, well, they haven't got that budget, and it's almost like a coaching consultancy basis, isn't it? Of like, this is what you need to do. We could do it, it's going to cost you this, but if you actually did it, it'll be this, this, and this. Because I guess you want them to get to market, don't you? So you can help sell them, but at the same time, there's that toss up between getting it right and how much they can spend and stuff in it. That's the key.
Oh, you're absolutely right. They need a good chunk of cash to get going in franchising properly. So we always start with a blueprint. It's like a franchising business model. So this is what you need. Let's have a look at your finances. Let's have a look at your cash flow. Let's have a look at your profits. So if you manufacture widgets for £9 and sell them for £10, you're never going to franchise because there's not enough profit in it to split with your franchisee. But if you're a product or a service with a high margin, a service, that it's your time and your offering, then so long as there's a financial benefit. Now, what a lot of small businesses, what we see is, if it works for the business owner, it's likely to work for a franchisee. Because the management services fee is going to be 6, 8, 10, 12%, whatever is right for that business. And again, it's not just pick a figure, it's 10%. It's working it out for that business. So you take, e.g., 10% off the turnover, and the franchisee probably makes enough profit. So a lot of people think, okay, well, it works for me, it'll work for a franchisee, but will it work for you as a franchisor? As you know, Ryan, you've got head office costs, you've got additional staff, you've got expenses. So what we need to do is build a model which says, what will a Joe average franchisee do? Now, I'll often say, what did you do in turnover in your first year? If the answer to that is 100 grand, how long have you been running? 10 years. Well, okay, so if you started again today, would you do more or less than 100 grand? Oh, God, I'd do 200 grand because I now know what works. I now know how to market. And now I can work the business a lot better. Therefore, a franchisee joining that business benefits from all of that knowledge and skill and learning and is far more likely to succeed. But the franchisor then, if it's a lowish turnover business, 80, 100, 150 grand, you're taking 10% of 100 grand, you're making 10 grand as a franchisor per franchisee. And it's a multiple of franchisees, so it becomes a numbers game. If you're a care business and you do £1 million, it won't be 10%, it's likely to be 4 or 5%, but it's of a bigger number. And it's quite likely to wash out in the scheme of things. So very often our advice is, look, you're not ready to franchise. Some of the businesses we talk to turn over 50k, 40k. What's your time availability?
Would you in them situations, Al, would you tell them what they need to do and say, look, you've not got the money to do it right now, you're probably not scalable, but you need to think about this, this and this if you're going to do it? Absolutely.
What I'd be saying is, let's look at how you can scale your business. So you run kids classes, dance classes, whatever it may be, just as an example, but you're doing all of the classes.
Right.
What if you employ or contract 3 teachers to run those classes for you? Often the answer is, but I'd have to pay them and I make less money. Okay, so what do you make out of a class? 10 quid a pop, 30 kids, do the maths, pay a teacher 30, 40 quid, so you're still making money. And it's almost like a light bulb goes off. You do that 3 or 4 times, you're scaling your business, your turnover is now 100, 120, 150 grand, and you've got the time to invest in becoming a franchisor. Because right now, you're too busy running your own classes. So the right advice there is, come back to me in 2 years or a year. when you've scaled your business and when you've got the right structure in place actually to franchise.
Do you find people sometimes want to like stick it together, stick it back past, just try and sellotape it together and make it kind of work? Have you ever been in situations where it has or hasn't worked kind of thing? Do you get it, or would you not even look at it nowadays? Have you learnt your lessons? There must be surely some like entrepreneurial spirit inside you kind of wants it to make it work, but have you done it like that?
Do you know, way back when, we'd try and make it work, but actually trying to make it work, the right advice is don't just go on the internet and pull a franchise agreement off and take out the word chicken and put in the word donut and think you've got an agreement or think you've got a manual.
Yeah.
You haven't. It has to be right for you.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to go and spend several £1,000s with a franchise lawyer to do it properly.
Yeah.
I've seen franchisors with a 25-page franchise operating manual.
Yeah.
Now, when we write a manual, it's 10 times that. It's 250, 300, 400 pages.
Yeah.
Some of the food and beverage manuals we do are over 500 pages.
Yeah, they're massive.
Because you have to have a system and you have to have something that your franchisee can follow.
Yeah.
Do this, do that. Cover your back. Make sure they know what they're doing. Put all of the steps in there so that when you get a new franchisee, and I've seen this 100 times, new franchisee starts, they've been through the training. You think, great, they're good to go. 3 days in, Ryan, how do I do that?
Yeah.
Ryan, how do I do that?
Yeah.
Jem, how do I do that? Read the manual. And yes, I'll help you, but I'll only answer a certain number of questions before you go back and read the manual, because the manual is the Bible of your business.
Yeah.
You can't do that on a shoestring.
No.
You can't just, you can, people have done it, think, okay, well, I think, I run my business in Leeds, so Sheffield should work. Okay, so I'll grant a franchise in Sheffield. What's the potential in Sheffield? How many people are there? How many of your profile of customers are in Sheffield? How do you know that? How do you know that you're giving your Sheffield franchisee the same opportunity as your Nottingham franchisee?
But do you not? I'm gonna have to interject. I have to, because I'm curious, Al, and I'm going to ask the questions. Like, my immediate thought process in the way I am right now, and what I've done, I'm like, can you not just fucking make it work? Can you not just like not look at the big budget and go, let's try this pack? Would you not consider it? Have you wrote that off now as because you're a bigger firm, or would you not like just say, look, okay, it's going to cost you $3,000 for a franchise agreement with this person. Let's do this, try that, and do a mail shot, and would you never consider doing that, or is it not worth it nowadays?
Do you know, it's an interesting question, Ryan, because if you'd asked me that 5 years ago, I'd have said, if you'd asked me 10 years ago, I might have tried to make it work.
Yeah.
If you'd asked me 5 years ago, I'd have said, no, don't franchise your business unless you're going to do it properly.
Yeah.
But we're talking a few moments ago about the new services, so the franchise relationship management.
Yeah.
We will go in and we will advise. Now, if the advice is, and we've got a couple of clients working this way at the moment, if the advice is you are not ready to franchise because ABC, can we help you with ABC? So we'll go and give you some business advice, some consultancy advice outside of franchising to get you ready to franchise.
Yeah.
And whether you eventually franchise or not, your business will be stronger on the back of that. I mean, we've done many a franchise business blueprint where they actually haven't franchised because they've seen, actually, if I do it that way, maybe I'll employ some salespeople. Maybe I'll go down a different road. Because of what I've learned about my business, I'm stronger and I can go and do that. Now, to me, that's a win. It's not a new franchisor, but it's a win because that business is stronger. You've helped a business owner to move to the next level, whether it's in franchising or not. I mean, you cut me open and I'm franchising 28 years.
Well, I think that's the case, because like if you sit in a pub, I'm guarantee you'll always end up having a question about it. Could I franchise this and could I franchise that? And I just always wonder if it whet your appetite to try things and do things, or did you kind of have to stick to the rules kind of thing? I don't.
I mean, I would always try and stick to the rules now.
Yeah.
If somebody said to me, look, I've got an operating manual and it covers the how you do what you do bit, then okay, that's a starting point.
Yeah.
Now, maybe we then go and recruit a couple of pilot franchisees because you're then working with your pilot franchisees and amending and tweaking and improving your operating manual. But if you've got, I've got nothing written down and it's all in my head and this guy does it this way and that guy does it that way, you've not got a system.
Yeah, it's not too far. It's just dream in it. It's just interesting. I can't help it. Do you know what I mean? Like, because I'm a franchisor and I'm in franchising, I get asked all the time, and end up, if I go to a pub with my mates, by the end of the night, I've franchised someone's business. But it's because I've got this flair to want to do something and make it work. And I just thought, it must be difficult because you'd be sat in a pub talking about someone's dream, but you get back into work, Alan mode, and you've got you're not going to work. I don't feel like giving you this advice because I know it doesn't work unless you've got 30 grand and a load of, loads of things in place. It must be. Does it not do that in that?
Whenever I'm talking to somebody, not necessarily in a pub, but when I'm talking on a business conversation, we use something called 5-star franchising, and I've always used this. In 18 years, I've always used this. So, do you have a recognised brand with a good reputation? That's the starting point.
Yeah.
You can't franchise a failing business. You can't think, I'm losing money, so if I sell 10 franchises and take 10 grand off each, it doesn't work. So you can't franchise a failing business. Have you got a brand? Have you got a good reputation where you are? That might be a very tight geographical area, but if you've got a good reputation where you are, you've got a starting point.
Yeah.
Then you've got to think, is it easily learned by somebody with relevant skills? So if you're taking dents out of cars, maybe you haven't took dents out of cars before, but maybe you're quite handy and you can learn how to do that. If it's a care business, you're not necessarily a qualified care manager, but if you're a manager with some sales ability and some team management skills, you probably have the right profile. So is it easily learnt by somebody with relevant skills? Then is it a product or service that's required in enough locations for it to work? I remember many, many years ago, I got approached by a wedding venue. Can I franchise my business? Well, it's a wedding venue, and it's in Gretna Green, and it's called the Anvil. I'm thinking, okay, well, that might work in Gretna Green, but is it going to work in Bradford? or in Southampton? What's unique about it? So is it a product or a service that's required in enough locations? Not necessarily just in the UK. There are many businesses that don't franchise in the UK that just take it international and franchise internationally. But it's got to work in enough locations. And that's where we were talking about the mapping earlier on. What's the profile of your customer? What's the demographic of your customer? And are there enough of those people in a territory to make it work for you?
Yeah.
Then the financial bit. Is there enough profit in it to support the franchisee and the franchisor? And how do you split that profit? Is it a 3% management services fee, or is it a 15% management services fee? Do you add a marketing levy? What costs have you got? So that's point number 4. Point number 5, which I think you guys have got in spades here, is the ethical side of it. Yeah. Can you trust somebody to run a clone of your business as their business?
Yeah.
Because you're not employing them. They're not, it's not a boss and an employee relationship. Yeah. They're a business owner in their own right running a clone of your business. Mm-hmm. So you've got to get the culture right. Yeah. Now that is 5-star franchising. But then I always put a 6th star on the top of it, if you like, which is what I call interdependency factors. So why would somebody, from a franchisee point of view, why would somebody pay you an upfront franchise fee and a percentage of their turnover and become a franchisee for you? Yeah. What's their benefit? Why would they not take that money and become a competitor?
Yeah.
So it's interdependency. Why are they going to join your franchise? And if I can get... normally, I'll only get 3 or 4 ticks out of those 6, if you like, to begin with. But can I work on the rest?
Yeah.
Can we make this work? Are we franchising your whole business, or are we franchising a proportion of your business? Or is there another product or service we need to add to it to make it work as a franchise? And you put somebody through that, and you've got a pretty good idea of whether that's a business that can franchise.
Yeah. Something's jumped into my head, and I'm gonna it's good, Al, because I know I can probe you on it. The bit when you go down that, because that's quite like a tick list of stuff, and I get that side of it. But because I'm super passionate about what I do, it's like how do I put this into words? The journey of that business owner talking to you as a consultant, and that match between like hard sort of these are your tick list and this is my emotional business that I absolutely love and passionate about, and then you're trying to join that together, and I can imagine you'd be amazing at it, because I'll be honest with you, I've never heard anything bad about the franchise centre, and I actually love you all. I think you're all, I've chatted to you all at some point. It's just I struggle with that. I guess you've got to find that culture fit from that franchise or to that person potentially buying a franchise and try and teach that franchisor how they're going to coach that new franchisee on the culture fit. That must be is that quite a difficult part of it, or do you find, do you step away at that point, or?
It can be, but that's about matching the right franchisee.
Yeah.
So, definitely the passion works. My favourite clients are those that are absolutely passionate about their business. I've made this work. I've built this business, and I want to share this business with all of these franchisees out there.
Yeah.
So the passion has to come through. But then if you've got a box of frogs, and then you've got a very stiff franchisee, there's probably not a match.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to have that culture match.
Yeah.
You've got to get these people interacting and talking, because it's a 5, 10, 15-year relationship.
Yeah.
So you can't put a round peg in a square hole.
No.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, that's the bit I struggle with.
And the hardest bit, Ryan, going back to your question, is when you get somebody that's so passionate about their business, but you come up against a block to say, actually, there's not enough profit in it here, or that doesn't work because, or, you know, ABC. There could be a number of reasons why it's either not right for them to franchise right now, or, you know, it might be right in 6 or 12 months if they do A, B, and C, if they build that, or they add that, or they work on that. But I mean, I've got a couple of people I've been working with for quite some time now. One in particular I'm thinking of, we did a blueprint maybe 18 months ago.
Yeah.
And every 3 or 4 months he's phoning me up and, we've done this now and we've done that and da-da-da. And you're not quite ready yet.
Yeah.
Because if you go down that route and do it wrong, it can be disastrous.
Yeah, it costs them thousands. Yeah, and I think the hardest bit is the defeat of heart. You know, like losing the will to want to do it because it's not worked, and that's more expensive than the money.
Yeah. Do you know, there's been a few times, more than a few times in the past, where we've been asked to step in by the BFA.
Yeah.
Excuse me. We've been asked to step in by the BFA to say, look, these people didn't get the right advice, or they tried to go it alone, and they've got a franchise of sorts.
Yeah.
Can we help?
Yeah.
And then we go in and we look and we do a bit of a gap analysis, and, you know, okay, what's working, what's not working, what do you need? The challenge is sometimes if they've gone down the wrong road and they had not enough money to start with, they've spent it all, and sometimes you're in a blind corner.
It's a tough one, that, isn't it, mate? See, it's quite, right now talking to you, it's quite practical, but actually living and breathing your job, it's quite emotional.
Oh, it can be, yes, absolutely.
Did you get what I mean? Like, you're talking practically now, but because I think I'd like to be a consultant one day if Tezlom ever gets sold, or I pass it, because I think eventually I'll give the shares to the team and then come out of it a little bit, because I would love that, and I'd love to be a consultant. And I always think about the practical side of it, because I've helped a couple of people franchise their business, or just helped them along the way kind of thing, or introduced them to consultants or whatever. But it's just the emotional side that I would be like, that's where I'd get stuck in at. And I think there must be points where you're like trying to convince them to do something, or talk them round, or talk them off the ceiling, and then getting them to agree to a franchise and all that sort of stuff. There must be parts where some deep conversations.
You're right, Ryan, and often that's the best bit.
Yeah.
You know, when you're speaking to somebody who's so passionate about their business and they so want it to work, you've almost got to. You've got to play the middleman, if you like.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to say, look, the reason that you've engaged our services is because of my experience in franchising, and I'm telling you, you need to do that to make it work.
Yeah.
And if you don't do that, it's either not going to work, or it's not going to work as well.
Yeah.
Because you know, I won't just say, oh, you want to do that? Okay, you're paying the bills, fine. Okay, no.
Yeah.
No. You take us on for a reason.
Yeah.
My advice is, I've done this. In fact, I worked it out the other day. I've worked with over 160 brands in franchising.
Amazing, that, isn't it, mate?
40 plus, maybe 50 on the international side with Farah, and over 100 in the UK. Yeah. So there's not much I haven't come across in franchising. Yeah. So when somebody says I want to do that, I'm going, ooh, hang on a minute.
Yeah. Because
think about the other instead.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. You know, we often come across a situation where somebody wants to go down a road, and we're saying we strongly advise you not to.
Yeah.
because.
And then you've got to tell the story.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's just interesting. That's what I mean, because it just rings. That's what the questions I would want to ask the consultant. Like, I'd be like, well, what happens if this happened now? You know, and like well, just me in particular, I think I like to talk things through. So that's where I would be at. I've come too far away from the microphone, I'm sorry. But I would be like trying to figure that bit out. It would have to be like a real emotional connection with the consultant, and then kind of going on you must do that. It must be like that.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, some of our clients have been with us for 10, 12 years.
Yeah.
And you know, you class them as friends.
Yeah.
And you want what's best for them.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you're having to say, actually, don't do that, when they really want to do that.
Yeah.
But that's why we're there.
Yeah. You've got to have that. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, mate?
I think it is.
Yeah. It's a sick job, isn't it? Like, you've got a good job, haven't you? It's a nice job, isn't it?
Do you know what? I mean, it isn't a job, it's a way of life.
Yeah.
You know, where I am now as a partner of the franchising centre.
Yeah.
And the one thing you're mentioning, the team. So we won't take anybody into our team unless they've got 10 years franchise experience.
Yeah.
So if I go back to previous when I was employed many years ago, you know, I had to be the best person in the room. I had to be better than you at that job because we were working together.
Yeah.
You know, but now. If we see talent in the franchise industry, I want to surround myself with people, and we want to surround ourselves with people who are better at stuff than we are.
Yeah. When do you think that happened to you? It's a tough one, that, isn't it? I know when it happened to me. I was a car salesman. So at 18 years old, I was selling cars, and I automatically wanted to be the best car salesman. I was quite often was. But I think it's when you get into a position... there's a point in there sometimes where your ego has to subside because you realise you're not the best in the room, but you can be an equal in the room, isn't there? And I think there's a point there where you can go, actually, there's some people I can recognise some skills around me here, and I need to probably just wind my neck in a little bit. And then once you let yourself off the hook, it's actually okay, isn't it? Does that make sense to you?
It is. I can tell you where I crossed the line between being an employee and a manager.
Yeah.
Way back when. Straight from university, I worked for HFC Bank.
Is that where you were, financial? Is that these sectors?
Yeah.
What did you do at uni?
I did geology at uni.
Did you really?
But halfway through my second year, I realised that wasn't going to be my career.
Right.
You know, my mates were looking at getting jobs on the rigs on the North Sea and the oil rigs and what have you, and I thought, no, that's not me.
Yeah.
So I completed my degree, but from partway through my second year, I knew geology wasn't going to be the thing.
What is geology? Study
of rocks and minerals and fossils and that sort of thing. Yeah. I'll still go and pick up a rock off the beach.
And you know what they are?
Absolutely.
That,
but I knew that wasn't going to be my career. Straight from uni.
Can I ask a question? Quick one, just to throw you off a track, just a tiny bit. Do you believe in crystals and things like that? Or does it a load of horse shit, that?
I'll be honest, no, I'm not into that side of it.
But did you study them? Did you study them though?
Oh yeah, I can tell you how a quartz crystal is formed. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
I wonder if it's just a belief thing. Then it's interesting.
Yeah, no, I've never got into that side of it.
But you know what they all are, though.
I know what they all are. Yeah. Well, I used to 30 odd years ago.
Sorry, I'm like a bit like that. Just a bit selfish on a podcast, but it's just interesting.
No, absolutely. No. So I actually got a job as a trainee manager, they called them, for HFC Bank.
Right.
HFC is now part of HSBC, but at the time we were a finance company. We ran current accounts. Right. So at the age of 24, I got my first branch as a branch manager.
Wow.
But I never crossed the line into being a manager.
No.
I was the doer. I wasn't managing other people. I needed to be the best person in the room, and it probably was because that's why I got my promotion. And I remember our regional manager coming in and seeing me one day, and he says, "Alan," he says, "that's the line in the sand. You haven't crossed it yet."
Yeah.
You know, and I remember that to this day.
Yeah.
And okay. And then once it's pointed out to you, you sort of step across the line in the sand and start delegating more efficiently.
Yeah.
And start having, the people who are very good in your team around if you're doing that sort of thing. So I can tell you where I stepped over the line to be a manager. Now, where did that turn into in effect being a leader.
Yeah.
That's a difficult one. That's a very difficult one.
Did you have any specific training now, or when you joined that, did you go into the management side of it? Were you specifically getting trained by someone, and did you go down the route?
Yes, we did. So, in fact, I remember it was an interesting time because there were two of us as assistant managers in the Huddersfield branch, actually. And the other guy is, to this day, still a very good friend of mine 30 odd years later. No. So there was two of us. We were basically running that branch, but as assistant managers. Yeah. And our manager wouldn't put us through to the training centre, the assistant manager training programme, they called it, because we were running his branch for him. So we actually went over his head to the regional manager and said, Tony, Mike and I, we want to get on this course. He said, yeah, absolutely, yeah, but you've never been put forward. Well, can we put ourselves forward? Not really, but yeah, go on.
No, that
so we both went on this assessment centre training course, and I don't know, 3, 4, 5 months later, we both got our first branch within a week of each other. I got Huddersfield, he got Halifax. And to this day, he attended our wedding 35 years ago, and he's still a very good friend of mine. But there was a structured training program to be a manager. Yeah. I've never had any training at all of crossing that line from. I mean, ultimately at the franchising centre, we are 21 self-employed people. Yeah. We've got 2 employees. Yeah. So we don't manage our team. We manage the business, but we don't manage our team. Yeah. I guess if I was to try and pinpoint, it would be 4 years ago now where myself, Farah, Doug and Steve went through the management buyout of Brian Duckett. Right. And at that point, we became business owners. Yeah. And that's when we started to do things a little bit different. We looked for talent in the industry. So, for example, one of our team, food and beverage expert, worked with McDonald's and Subway and had his own cafes. So I franchised food and beverage brands. Yeah. And in the past, I wouldn't have hesitated to say, okay, I'll do that for you. But now when I'm talking to an F&B brand, I'll say, look, Michael's your expert. Yeah. You need to speak to him, not to me. Yeah. So it's not being afraid of saying, actually, they're better than I am. Yeah. There's a team full of people. There's 20 people that are better at stuff than I am and that we are. And I suppose that's why we're good at what we do. Yeah. There's a bit of... There's going to have to be some leadership there, because you can tell that by talking to you, but there's going to have to be some leadership in there, because if you're talking to a potential franchisor, they're going to want to be led by you to a certain degree, and I guess that's where the leadership piece comes, isn't it? Because they're going to want to believe to follow you, aren't they? Yes. From that side, absolutely, yeah. We've got to manage that relationship. We've got to lead that relationship. Yeah. And, it doesn't matter how big a business you're talking to. My biggest client was Carillion before, and I wasn't responsible for their downfall, by the way. But, 16 billion turnover business. Yeah. We worked with one of the arms of that business. So you're dealing with very senior people who you might assume know what they're doing, but they don't know what they're doing in franchising. Yeah. So you've got to be a little bit assertive. You've got to say, look, if you want our advice, do A, B, and then C. Yeah. Don't do A and C and miss out B. Yeah. So you've got to lead it. You've got to manage it from that point of view. Interesting. I wanted to try and get into. So we've covered what you do and how you do it. How do you find it stressful? How do you cope with it? Or do you love it? Because it doesn't. I don't know if it's stressful or not. Is it a stressful job, or do you not find it stressful? Or because there's got to be some depth of thought into advising people on what they're going to do with their business, and then also, I guess when you get them onto a client, you've got to go through the pain of doing it. There's got to be stress involved at that point there. How do you cope with it? Stress. Working with a client, I don't think is stressful. No. And I don't want to sound arrogant, but I've done it so many times, I know what I'm doing. Yeah. Therefore, I don't find it stressful. You might find it frustrating. Yeah. If they want to go down a different route, or you've agreed a budget of and a schedule of things that need to happen, and then we get to it, and okay, budget doesn't allow that now, so we need to change those plans and what have you. So there's a bit of frustration in there, but that's just managing a relationship. That's just managing a process. The stress of working with a client, no, I don't find that a stress. The stress comes in the running of the business, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, constantly looking for the next client.
Yeah.
Constantly balancing the books. You know, we've been asked by the BFA to sponsor this event. Is the budget in the marketing fund to be able to do that or not?
Yeah. Do we want a part of it, sort of thing?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think. Let
me ask you a different question then. Since you've been running a business, have you found that you've had different or more stresses? Or I guess the question is something I advise franchisees on. I'm trying to find, not trying to dig, but I know it's hard to run a business. So that's what I know. So, and the way I cope with things is I'll exercise, I'll get outside, I'll watch my diet, I'll surround myself with the right people, I've got a coach, I ask the right questions. And I guess that's what I'm trying to pry into a little bit, is just like, there's obviously a new door for you in the last 4 years being a business owner. You've got loads of experience, but that's irrelevant until you open that door being a business owner in the nicest possible way. I mean that. And I'm just wondering has there been points in then the last 4 years where you've realised that you're shouting at the missus, kicking the dog, like travelling too much, being in places you didn't want to be, having conversations you didn't want to have? How have you dealt with that? Because I understand that it feels really nice and everything's really swimming, but the reality of running a business isn't that.
No, you're right. For me, it's about having a balance. I am so lucky because I don't have to be in an office 9 to 5, Monday to Friday.
Yeah.
Most of the work that we do with our clients, we can do at any time.
Yeah.
You know, I could be working at 10 o'clock at night, and often am.
Yeah.
But in fact, I've told you this story before, Ryan, but I'll repeat it again. So it's about a balance for me.
Yeah.
So in fact, it'll be 40 years at the end of this month since I met my wife.
Yeah.
We've been married for 35. Now that keeps me going. She's
how's she coping? She okay?
Oh, she 40 years with me. Yeah, no, I think she's quite happy with that with that situation.
Mate.
But one thing that we've always done, she used to work part-time, Monday, Tuesday, alternate Wednesdays. She's now taken early retirement. She was a social worker for 29 years.
Oh, nice.
So she retired
she'll know about
through
stress.
COVID. Oh, absolutely, yes. Yeah. But one thing we did actually through COVID was when she worked Monday, Tuesday, alternate Wednesdays, I would block alternate Wednesdays out of my calendar. And we'd have a date day.
Oh, nice.
Now, and we still do that to this day. So once a fortnight, not always, because sometimes meetings get in the way or client work or whatever, but we always have in our calendar once a fortnight a date day. And we did it on a Wednesday when it was in COVID because there was too many people around on a Saturday. So we didn't want to go anywhere on a Saturday. And we try and stick to that. Now, again, Ryan, I guess this is the difference between where I would have been 10 years ago and where I am now.
Yeah.
I'm very happy to openly tell people I'm going to take every other Wednesday out of the business.
Yeah.
I'll still answer the phone whilst I'm walking down Formby Beach because you introduced me to Formby Beach. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
But that's our time.
Yeah.
And that's a stress reliever.
Yeah.
I mean, you talked about gym. I sort of hit and miss with the gym. You know, sometimes I go regularly, sometimes I don't. But for me, it's cycling.
Is it?
I do a lot of cycling.
Right.
I haven't done as much more recently because we've just been very, very busy.
Yeah.
But in a typical year, I do 2,500, 3,000 miles on my bike.
Wow.
And that's it for me.
Yeah,
you get out on the bike and you just lose yourself and you forget everything.
Yeah,
and all you're concentrating on is getting your legs up that hill.
Yeah.
You know, and you forget all the stresses and the strains of the business. And then you'll come back and, you know, maybe I'll do that. I'll take an afternoon and instead I'll work the evening.
Yeah.
So I haven't found it particularly stressful because I suppose I came into that sort of business management side of it. I mean, I've had my own business for 18 years.
Yeah.
As a consultant with the franchising centre, I've been Alan Wilkinson Consulting, trading as the franchising centre.
Yeah.
But I've been responsible for me.
Yeah.
Me, my own income.
Yeah.
So
I guess there's some learned behaviours of how you deal with stress, and having a partner there is a key thing. That's nice that you've done that, mate. I love that. Isn't it nice? That she'll love that over there. She's all about hearts and love and stuff like that.
I love that, Alan.
It's nice that, mate. I love that. Isn't it clever that?
I think the other thing you've got to know why you're doing it.
Yeah.
got to know why. And that changes. So, we had our first child when I was at the bank.
Yeah.
And that was quite a stressful environment. Jade's 30 now.
Yeah.
So, both of my daughters, 27 and 30 years old. So my why used to be providing for my family.
Yeah.
And the basic wage used to pay the mortgage, feed the kids.
Yeah.
The bonuses used to pay for the holidays and what have you. So that used to be my why.
Yeah.
But then, okay, they're self-sufficient now.
Yeah.
They've both got very good jobs. I mean, my eldest is earning more than I am at the age of 30. It's fantastic.
Yeah, amazing.
So now what is my why? Now, for us, it's travel.
Yeah.
We want to see the world.
Yeah.
And for me, we're just actually planning our Thailand trip for next year.
Oh, nice.
A couple of years ago, we did California. A couple of years before that, we did Vietnam. We tried to go east and then west and then east. So for me, that's the why.
Yeah.
Why do I put myself through what I do? Why do I work these long hours? Why do I, spend Thursday, Friday, Saturday at the NEC, at the franchise show, etc., etc.
Yeah.
But it's understanding that, and for me, it's if I know I've got we're doing a big trip in March. My wife just turned 60, so a big birthday lasts all year.
Yeah.
So we've got a few little things. We'll just sort of, for example, for my birthday last year, Jack is going, "What do you want for your birthday?" Well, nothing. No, come on, Alan, what do you want for your birthday? And jokingly, I said, well, what I'd really like to do is go to Lanzarote for a few days.
Yeah.
This was a week before my birthday. We spent 3 days in Lanzarote.
Yeah.
It's just having the flexibility to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Because most things in yes, there's some immovables. There's some, a client's got a meeting and fine.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I can take Thursday, Friday because I know I can either work more on the Monday, Tuesday leading up to it or get some extra hours in on the following week.
You said it before, it's like a lifestyle, isn't it? It's not just a job, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, it's a lifestyle.
It is, yeah. And, it's the people we have in the franchising centre, they're all friends.
Yeah.
I mentioned my friend Mike from the bank, from HFC. He's a lifelong friend.
Yeah.
I reckon, and I've not got many friends from employment that I've pulled along with me.
Yeah.
But the guys at the franchising centre, 10 of them I would class as my best friends, and the other 10 I would class as good friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not hard.
It's a nice place to be, that, isn't it, mate? It's a nice place to be, but I guess it's learned behaviour over years, trying to get to that sweet spot. And it sounds like you've got it right, haven't you? It's a nice place to be, mate. Being able to, I love that. It's not. Is it a mentality? I don't know. The lifestyle mentality of, because it would be difficult if you said to yourself, "I'm not going to answer any calls after 6 o'clock at night, and I'm not going to work Saturday, or I'm not going to work till 10 o'clock at night." Having that ability to say, I'm going to go and meet the missus, we're going to have lunch on Friday, or I'm going to go and meet my mate, and I'm going to go and see my daughter and whatever, and then to actually, but I'm going to spend 2 hours tonight doing that bit of work, and it's giving yourself that key to freedom, or whatever you want to say, that says, I am going to allow myself to work out the hours that I've said I am because I need to get the job done.
Yes.
But then also give yourself the flexibility to go to Lanzarote if you need to.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's not just as easy as that, because it's very it's easy to become complacent.
Yeah.
I've done this 160 times. I can franchise your business with my eyes shut, my hands tied behind my back.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. But where's the challenge? There's always a challenge with a new client, because there's different things that you come across. And that's 160 different franchise models, by the way, because there's always a nuance, there's always something different, there's always a different way that something works. So that's still exciting in itself. But I think you've always got to look for a new challenge. And for me, that was, in fact, I'll tell you how this came about. My wife and daughter went to see Stephen Bartlett live on stage in Manchester.
Yeah.
And he was talking about, well, he's a podcaster, and he's going, I know AI will make me redundant eventually. So he's teamed up with Mo Gaudat, and he's now doing AI podcasts. Yeah. Not nearly as good as this one, of course.
Yeah.
But he knows that will happen. And so we went away from that. A week later, we're in a management meeting at the franchising centre, and we're trying to work out what we do with TFC Digital, you know, the new software house that we've talked about.
Yeah.
And I thought, hang on a minute, yeah, I'll do that. I'm not a techie. I can use software and I sort of understand the basics, but I couldn't tell you the intricacies of any of the softwares that we use. But okay, I'll take that on because it's a new challenge.
Yeah.
And it's something that's slightly out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
But I know we've got guys in the team who are geniuses on the tech.
Yeah.
So I can say, how does that work? And he'll know. But I can deal with the clients on that side of it. So you've always got to be looking for something new.
Yeah, you have always got to be looking for something new.
And that's the most exciting thing that I've done in the past 12 months, getting involved on the TFC digital side.
Yeah, it's interesting that, and it like that appetite for growth. It's all, it never leaves me either. Like I can never sit still kind of thing. I think I'd go insane if I did. Yeah, it's interesting. Kay's doing a digital course for cold water. She's very much the same as me. He's like, we have an appetite for continually trying to find new things out. It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. And you look for different things. So, you know, I can't have a conversation at an exhibition or at a conference now. I can't have a conversation with somebody without thinking, would they be a good fit for our team?
Yeah.
Are they likely to want to join the franchising centre? Have we got a gap? Have we, you know, can they bring a skill to us? You should sort of start to look at things differently.
Yeah, you do look at things differently when you have that mindset. How did you get into franchising it? Because no one ever goes and applies for a job. Well, then again, I said that someone did apply for a job in franchising the day on the podcast. But how did you get into franchising?
Okay, so
you went to the bank, and what happened at the bank when did you leave?
I was there 7.5 years. They did a restructure. I got made redundant.
Yeah.
That was when.
How did that land? Did you have a couple of kids then as well?
One. Yeah, one. So that was interesting time. And I just literally, back then it was the Yorkshire Post. It was a newspaper.
Yeah.
I bought the Yorkshire Post, saw a little 10x2 advert for a franchise sales executive. What's that?
Yeah.
No idea. What's franchising? No idea. This was 28 years ago. Went to apply, got the job. Really, I'll be totally honest, it's not fair for me to name the brand, but learnt how to franchise wrong.
Yeah.
You know, they were at that point the fastest growing franchise in the UK.
Wow.
I sold 32 franchises in a year.
Wow. That's been going that, mate.
There were 4 of us in the sales team and 2 in the operations team, so that tells you where, you know, the problems that are building up.
Yeah.
But I remember when I was recruiting franchisees, basically. When I got my first franchisee, coming out of a bank environment, you know, the manual said you do your business plan and you do this and you do that. So I'd worked with a franchisee, got this great big business plan, and I remember walking up to the office of the financial director and saying, okay, how do I get this business plan approved? I want this franchisee to join. He's going, give it here, signed it. Well, are you not going to look at it? He says, do you want your commission or not? And whoa, that was alien.
Yeah.
But that's how not to franchise.
Yeah.
Did that for 2 years, and then went and learnt franchising proper. I worked with NIC Services Group, John Spencer.
Yeah.
I became his franchise recruitment manager, then his franchise general manager. And in contrast, recruited 3 franchisees in the first year.
Yeah.
You know, but learnt franchising proper. That's when I did the Diploma in Franchise Management with the franchising centre, used to be called Haworth Franchising.
Right.
That's when I started to get involved with the BFA. So I was, in the year 2000, I was the second person in the UK to get the Diploma in Franchise Management. Moved on from NIC to join Fastway Couriers. They've been and gone now, but when they came to the UK, I was their franchise general manager. Worked directly for the national master. Did 2 years recruiting franchisees, then did 2 years as the franchisee, the original franchisee for West Yorkshire. So I had 13 courier franchisees and 13 vans. It was
so you bought a franchise?
Two-tiered franchise. Yeah, I got involved as so I was the managing director of the West Yorkshire franchise.
No way.
So learnt it from the franchisee side. And then the master moved on, and actually it was an Australian franchise, New Zealand franchise, but it's very big in Australia. The depot manager from Australia became the new UK master. So whilst running my franchise in Leeds, I actually went back to work for him as his franchise general manager for 12 months. Introduced him to UK franchising. So that was a real good experience.
Yeah, I bet, mate.
I mean, you talked earlier on about the travelling, to what I used to do then. So what we did with that franchise, I would roll my shutters up in Leeds at 6 o'clock on a Monday morning. I'd run the depot that day, I'd roll them down at 6 o'clock at night. And then I had a manager that ran it for the rest of the week. I'd then get in my car on a Monday night and drive to Brighton. And I'd spend 2 days in Brighton. On a Wednesday night, I'd get in my car and drive to Cardiff. I'd spend 2 days in Cardiff, and then I'd drive home. Because we needed champions in the business. So we picked Leeds, Brighton and Cardiff as the 3 champion depots. I did that for, 4 or 5 months. And that's when the kids were little.
Yeah.
And that's when I'd walk in on a Friday night and the kids are saying, "Who's that man?"
Yeah.
That was hard.
Yeah, that's the bit I struggle with. I was trying to get to that point. That's the bit I struggle with, is the missing the kids.
Yes.
It's a tough one, isn't it, mate, to decide what you should do, isn't it? It's a tough one, isn't it?
Well, it is, but back then we didn't really have an option.
That's what I'm saying to you. I don't have an option. Like, I don't really have an option.
Yeah.
Like, it's like tomorrow, so I'm going to that franchise think tank tomorrow. It's tomorrow, isn't it? And I'm half tempted to cancel going. I said yeah, but it finishes in Birmingham at 3:30, and I've got to pick Jackson and Logan up at minimum 5:30. I ain't going to make it. No. And it's that toss-up between work and life, and then it's like, well, why should I sacrifice an hour for work of the little boys? You know what I mean? I'm just like, can't decide. Then sometimes I'm like, this is what it is, Franchise Expo away for 3 days. The one in February is in London, so it's away for 4 days because I go a day earlier. Yeah.
I guess the difference is, Ryan, you are your own boss.
Yeah.
So you can make that decision. If I put myself back into those days, particularly when I was at Fastway, I'd be putting in 70 hours a week, 80 hours a week.
Yeah.
But then I'd get to December and my daughter's playing the part of Mary in the school play. And my boss at the time saying, "No, you're not going." And I'm going, "Hello, yes, I am."
Yeah.
And some of the conversations, I could have been sacked for gross misconduct. Some of the words I said when I said, "No, I am going." Watch me. Yeah. And I went and I watched that school play. Yeah. I don't have that anymore. No. And it's a big draw for prospective franchisees coming in. People don't buy a franchise to earn more money, usually. Yeah, normally money is 6th or 7th on the list. It's flexibility, it's owning your own business. It's being able to go to the school play and the school sports day and working your business around of it. Yeah,
it's a funny one. It's like, see, at Tezlom, I mean, I try my hardest to give people as much flexibility as I possibly can. So if someone had a school play to go to, they can just go. Don't even just say I've got, and I wouldn't take it off the holidays or anything like that. I'd just go. Like, you're not going to miss out on 3 hours work, so you can't go and watch a school play. I think different though, isn't it? The world's a different place now. Even when I started selling cars, and I'm only 40, and when I was like 19, if I even mentioned a day off, I'd get crucified. If you started to, you finished at 6, if you left any earlier than 6:30, you'd be like, "What are you doing?" Like, it's a bit different now, the world, and it's a little bit now, 2024's flexibility. I think also people just a bit more, well, I am anyway. I think I am. I think if someone's got a doctor's appointment and they've got something on and they've got to shoot off, and I'm like, I'll just take it an hour there, an hour there. I don't think it's worth it, the pain.
No, you're right. I mean, I'm not working to a 40-hour contract, if you like.
Yeah.
And I have no idea what some weeks I might do 20 hours, some weeks I might do 60 hours.
Yeah.
It's flexible. But my experience is, if you give them the school play or you give them the doctor's appointment, you probably get far more than their contracted hours, and you certainly get the goodwill on the back of it.
I think it's also, I mean, the day and age it is now, the technology you've got. you can, like, I mean, I've not been funny, but I've rang Kate at 6 o'clock in the morning and had a chat on a Saturday morning while she's in bed with a fella, and we just have a chat and we end up talking about life and work. And I mean, we're friends though, it's different, but I think would you say any different, Kate? I think every single one of the team I could probably ring.
Yeah, definitely. We've built a culture where you don't switch off. You're always ready for it. I'm ready for his ideas on a Saturday morning at 6 o'clock.
Yeah, I think that's the culture you kind of got to create, isn't it? Where it's just like okay to do that, and then also, you know, if they need a bit of flexibility somewhere, it's fine, isn't it? There's a cross between like what's taking the piss and not, but at the same time, you know, it's just okay, isn't it? Yeah,
it is. I mean, I get told off by my wife sometimes for taking calls on a Saturday, or for you know, we'll be sitting in a restaurant. What are you doing? Oh, I'm just answering this email.
Yeah.
You know, no, you're not working now.
Yeah.
you know, so she's very good. For me, on stopping me from doing that and actually switching off, because there's times that you absolutely have to.
Yeah. Do you struggle with that still or not? Are you all right with it now? You seem like you're quite settled in the way you are now.
Yeah. No. I'm good with that.
Yeah.
You know.
Maybe not in the past, but maybe now.
Yeah.
It's a learning curve, isn't it, Al?
Yeah, I'll still do it. You know.
Yeah.
And if you know, we tend to talking about the travelling thing, so we will normally either do New Year or just after New Year in Lanzarote. We always had a rule: the world is too big, never go back to the same place twice.
Yeah, I've been to Tenerife like 80 times.
Yeah, until we found winter sun in the Canaries.
yeah. Same. I think I've done the same. I think when I was a kid, I think from the age of about 7 till about 24, I was spending Christmas in Tenerife.
Yeah.
Just every time.
But you know, doing what I do, I can do it from anywhere. If I've got my laptop and I've got my phone, we always book an apartment that's got a workstation, a table, and good Wi-Fi. So, you know, we can do 2.5, 3 weeks in January, or often we go between Christmas, New Year to get New Year out there. Sometimes we go just after. But it's working from home.
Yeah.
You know, would I prefer to be sitting in a miserable, wet Yorkshire, or would I prefer to be sitting in the sunshine in Lanzarote? You get probably more work done, to be fair.
Yeah, but it's some people out would say, no, I'm on holiday and I'm not doing a scratch. I've got a friend, well, I've not got a friend anymore, but someone I used to be quite close to, and he would be like, shut his laptop, turn his work phone off, and that's it. Don't even mention work while he was on holiday. But I would struggle with that massively.
Do you know...
because it's my part of my life. Do you know what I mean? Like, if there's ever if I stumbled across you in a bar in Lanzarote, we'd probably take the piss out of each other for half an hour, but then just talk about franchising for the rest of the night. And I want to be cool about being able to do it.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I get it. For me, there's times when you're working from home or you're working from holiday.
Yeah.
Or not even from holiday, you're working from a foreign clime because you prefer to be in the sunshine than you are at home. That's fine, that's working.
Yeah.
So we've just had a week in Sorrento.
Yeah.
And that was a week's holiday. Now, for me, with our business, if the team know Alan's out of the business for 7 days or 6 days, he's out of the business. But if Alan says, I'll be picking up messages and emails and what have you, then that's fine, and I'll do that. Yeah. What I tend to do, even if I'm on holiday and I'm not working, every 2 or 3 days, because I wake up at silly o'clock in the morning, whereas my wife sleeps in a little bit longer, you know. So I'll do an hour checking my emails. I find that if I come back to 300 emails, it's stressful on that Monday morning. Yeah. If I've deleted all the rubbish off and I come back to 50 emails and I know what I'm doing, it's far less stressful. Yeah. So even when on a holiday, I'm like you. It's
a lifestyle.
It's
a lifestyle, isn't it? Yeah, it's a lifestyle.
But it's what you buy into. It's one of the reasons why you are self-employed, why you run your own business.
Yeah. It's not. Yeah. I totally agree with you. Yeah, interesting. So you joined NIC and then you moved around to different places and then you joined the franchising centre. What was it called then, Alan? What was it called then? So just to go back to that. So NIC, Fastway Couriers. I then joined. You became a franchisee then, didn't you, as well? I was. I was. Did you buy one, Al? Did you? Or how did that work?
Sort of.
Yeah.
Sort of. Yeah. It was a situation where the outgoing franchisee had put his business into voluntary liquidation for other reasons.
Right.
So we sort of stepped in and basically bought it for nothing, if you like. So it was a great opportunity.
Yeah.
A great opportunity to learn from being a franchisee upwards. And I mean, it was a two-tier franchise. So we were the original franchise, and then we recruited courier franchises. There's not many two-tier franchises in the UK. So I had 11 courier franchisees, and I had 11 vans. So we ran a fleet of 22 vehicles, picking up and delivering parcels around West Yorkshire. And I have to say, when I went back to work for the new master, in parallel to running my franchise, I would walk into a depot, and I knew.
Yeah.
I didn't have to, it wasn't theory, because I'd done it myself.
Yeah.
I remember walking into one of the depots, and he was declaring 16 grand a month or whatever. And I walked in, I thought, there's more than 16 grand worth of parcels on his floor. Because I knew from my own depot.
Yeah.
You know? So I just got a clipboard out, and I'm going, right, he says, what are you doing? I'm counting your parcels, you're screwing us. Oh, no, I'm not. Well, I think you are. Well, of course, the next month he declared 20 grand. The month after he declared 24 grand.
Yeah.
You know? Because you've been there and you've done it and you understand it. So I think it's really important for people in franchising to understand and to have that hands-on experience. So to go back to your question, I then went to work for another franchise for 12 months, set up a pilot. That was the Filter Group. Worked with them for a year. And then I'd basically done what they needed me to do. So after 364 days, again, made redundant. But by then I knew the franchising centre. It was Haworth Franchising. So going back to the start when Brian, Bill and Paul set up the franchising centre, or Haworth Franchising, they were the franchise division of Haworth Clark Whitehall, the big accountancy firm. And they were able to use that name for 10 years. And then the powers that be decided, no, you actually can't use that name. And that's when we rebranded to the franchising centre. Okay. But it was interesting. I went down to the offices, got my cards, literally walked in at 9 o'clock. I was out by 9:10. So I'm in the car driving north. I thought, okay, I'm going to phone the guys at Haworth Franchising. Okay, where's the next job? By then I'd already done my diploma in franchise management with them, so they knew me. They said, oh, that's interesting, Alan. We've been watching you for a while. Can you come to York tomorrow? Yep. So I walked into York. Unbeknown to me, I'd been sounded out as a consultant. No. But back then it was the basic salary, pays the mortgage, feeds the kids, the bonuses, pay for the holidays and what have you. Yeah. But then it was different. I'd been made redundant. I was just before my 40th birthday.
Yeah, wow.
And I joined as a recruitment consultant, as I said, old school. Yeah. Did that for about 18 months. And then we used to work geographically, territories, so Northeast Territory. The consultant that had that actually took a job with one of his clients, became their franchise director, which left the door open for me to become a franchise consultant, which I did. Did that until 4 years ago, when we joined together and bought out Brian and went from there.
Very exciting doing that, weren't it? Buying them out.
Yeah. Oh, it took a long time.
Yeah, interesting. I doubt you're going to share, but I don't even want you to. But it's just interesting, that sort of work would have been interesting to try and put it together.
It was very interesting. As a consultancy business, the value of the business is in its people, and we were the people. Yeah. So really, there was no great alternative for Brian than to pass the business on to us. It took a lot of organising and debating, and maybe 3 years actually. Wow. Before we got it all sorted.
Have you guys come closer, you four, since you kind of been working together at a different level?
Undoubtedly, but we were all friends anyway. Yeah, we'd all worked together very, very closely. Yeah. I mean, I've known Farah for many, many years. Farah is my surrogate sister. I love Farah to bits.
Yeah.
So I've always been very, very close with Farah. Steve Felmingham and I, he actually originally joined the franchising centre 6 months before I did.
Right.
So again, we've worked together for 18 years.
Wow, yeah.
Doug joined, 10, 12 years ago. So we've got long-standing relationships. So we just gel.
Yeah.
We've all got different skills, different attributes.
You'll all know each other's personality kinks and types and letdowns and upgoing, and all that stuff.
We all have different disc profiles.
Yeah.
But it's good to know that.
Yeah, of course it is, yeah.
Disc
profiles are massive, aren't they? We started doing them I think it was about a year ago or something, Kay, we did the disc profiling, and we found that really helped us because a couple of us, I was clashing one person in particular because he was quite methodical and wanted things spelling out to him, and he was really good at it, and I'm very much like, bang, 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 let's crack on, stop talking to him about it. And he kept on clashing because he didn't like that. So when I got a coach, and we kind of worked our way through it, and it's a really important part of the business.
It is, but it's important to know people's strengths and weaknesses. So, although I have recruited a lot of franchisees over the years when I was employed in that position, it's not something I get involved with right now. So my background is mainly franchise development. So within the group, which I'm head of franchise development.
Yeah.
Doug and his recruitment
You'll all be able
system.
to do the job. It's just picking the one you're going
to.
You love as well, though.
Yeah. So I head up development. Doug's background is recruitment. He heads up recruitment. Steve Felmingham's been more hands-on with his support and his franchisee network. So he heads up franchise relationship management. Farah's been international for 40 years. So we are heads of.
Yeah.
And then our consultants under that. So we've got some guys that will develop and recruit. Some guys that will just develop but don't want to get involved with recruitment. Some guys that don't recruit at all, don't develop at all, just recruit. Most of the team can get involved on the relationship management side because we've all been hands-on with franchisees.
Yeah.
Some want to do it more than others. Mm-hmm. There's a role for each individual, and it's about matching the role to the strengths and weaknesses, but the wants and needs of that individual. And it's about understanding what they want to do. Mm-hmm. We don't employ our team, but what do they want? What do they enjoy? What do they need? What revenue do they need to generate? So which clients are we going to put their way or their way? What are their areas of expertise? One of the big things that we changed when we took over the franchising centre, it used to be, okay, this client's in Leeds, it's Alan's.
Yeah.
Whether Alan has been involved in that sector or not was irrelevant. It was geographical.
Yeah.
I knew franchising. Now, you might argue I don't need to be an expert in that business because I'm an expert in franchising and I can surround your business in franchising. But actually, if I have got experience of domiciliary care or of recruitment or of whatever, it puts me in a stronger position with my franchising knowledge. So we now work to sector.
Yeah, clever idea.
Yeah. But because our clients want that and need that. They actually we believe our clients don't need that because we don't need to be an expert in that sector. But it's better if we are.
Yeah.
So
you can pull on its history, can't you?
Absolutely.
What best practices and all sorts, can't you?
I could write an operating manual for a food and beverage brand, but I would not have no idea on health and safety and COSH and all the food hygiene stuff. Michael does because he's been there and done it and got the T-shirt.
Yeah.
Therefore,
also you become even more of an expert in it because you're continually doing the same sector.
Yes.
So you'll become even more polished at it, won't you?
Yes. Now there is then the cross argument, and that's is there a conflict of interest? I've worked with a chicken brand. There's another chicken brand who wants to work with me. Can I recruit franchisees for both?
Yeah.
We would say in most cases yes, so long as both clients know and understand and are cool with it.
Yeah.
Because ultimately a franchisee will buy
the brand
and the people.
Yeah.
So if you've got two really good chicken brands, the franchisee will make their own choice.
Yeah, that's what I believe too. I believe that too. So we've got. I know one of our competitors works with the franchising centre, the Nurses UK.
Yes.
And but again, like does it bother me if they're out there doing what we do? No, because the same person can go and see them and us and fall in love with them just as much as us because they decide the brand and the person. And they're gone just because ours is $5,000 cheaper or their royalties 2% cheaper or they've got a fancier operations manual or whatever. It's kind of irrelevant, that kind of stuff. It's more about, can you work with that individual? Do I want to work with that individual?
Yeah. And that, I mean, you and Roshan are so different.
Yeah.
So somebody looking for a franchise in that space, as you say, irrespective of how much it costs or this or the other or the system or whatever, you both got good systems.
Yeah.
So you know that both businesses are solid.
Yeah.
A franchisee will either gel with you or they won't, and they'll either gel with Roshan or they won't.
That's why the franchise industry is the way it is, isn't it? Because it's so nice and warm and cuddly because everyone kind of understands that to a certain degree.
Yeah.
And some people might drop the prices to win a franchise and make it, an undeniable chat. That's fine, but you run the risk of selling too cheap, I think, personally. But yeah, that's why I think it's a nice place. I spoke to her quite a few times, Roshan, and she's great. I think it's a nice place to be, and I would always support anyone who's trying to chase their dreams and create a franchise network, even if they're going to be a competitor of mine, because I know at the end, the person who's buying the franchise makes the decision, and we also help make that decision.
Where you would lose out, Ryan, is if your business isn't solid, or your financials don't work, or half your franchisees have failed. Then you're going to lose that prospect to somebody else, irrespective of your personality.
Yeah, you shouldn't be selling franchise anyway.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you shouldn't be selling franchise. I mean, we all go through hard space. Let's not lie. The franchises get refreshed and networks are tough and marketplaces change, and that's the reality of franchising. But if you can still have a core business and it's amazing, and there's some franchisees that have got legacy and stuff like that, then
there's plenty of room for good quality, honest, ethical franchisors.
Yeah.
I mean,
we're not even anything like America, are we?
What have we got? 1,009 according to the latest survey.
Yeah.
What, they got 3,500 in the States?
Yeah. Just a different ball game, isn't it? So
all big, always bigger, always bigger and better in the States, of course.
Yeah, of course. I think I've got everything I want out of the podcast. So there's one thing I was going to ask you, but you might give me the practical answer, which is fine, is if you were going to give advice to someone about franchising the business, what 3 things would you say to them about what they need to think about as a family, as a person, as an individual, what they're going to go through? I know it's quite a tough one to put on your toes. That is there 3 things you could probably pinpoint, or maybe 2 things, or 1 thing, or 5 things, or
So the first thing is, if you run a business, let's say you're flipping burgers.
Yeah.
Okay. So your business is flipping burgers and managing your kitchen staff. When you franchise, that is no longer your business. Your business is finding, recruiting, training, supporting, working with people.
Yeah.
So you are in a completely different business. If you're comfortable with that, consider franchising your business.
Yeah.
Because you will no longer be the burger flipper.
Yeah.
You'll be the supporter of people.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. The second thing I would say is consider the time element in it, because it might be that you've got your business in the right place. Maybe you still work full-time in the business, and that's the hard part to become a franchisor. If your business runs with a manager and 6 staff or whatever it may be, and you've got plenty of time, then have you got the time to invest in becoming a franchisor, and do you like the idea of being that different business? And it shouldn't be about money. It shouldn't be, well, okay, I make 50 grand a year out of this business. If I duplicate that 10 times, I'll make 10 times 50 grand happy days.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that.
No.
You can't do it for the money. Hopefully, if the finances are right, the money will come.
Yeah.
But, if you're a year in and you've got 1 franchise, or you're 3 years in and you've got 6 franchises or 10 franchises, when does it start working for you financially?
Yeah.
I suppose it doesn't quite answer your question, but it's somewhere that I want to go with this. What I would say to somebody is, do not expect to have 10 franchises in your first year.
No.
Absolutely, because there's people out there that think that's going to happen.
Yeah.
So the time scale is you decide you think you might want to franchise today.
Yeah.
You then spend 2 months working on a franchise blueprint, a business plan for that franchise to say, if I franchise it, that'll be my franchise fee, that'll be my management services fee, this will be the support I give, this will be the training I give, this will be the amount of staff that I need in my business, these are all the stuff that I have to do. And you see 2 months in, you think, okay, now I've decided I'm going to franchise my business. Then you start the development process. And there's 2 or 3 or 4 months worth of getting the bones of the ops manual together, looking at the territories, liaising with a lawyer, and you're nowhere near ready after 3 or 4 months, but you can start your recruitment process. So you're 6 months, 7 months in before you start your recruitment process. Then you put your first advert out on the portals or the exhibition or wherever it may be, industry press, wherever. Then, as you know, you've got a due diligence process. If the person who's going to be your first franchisee applies on that day, you're looking at a minimum 2, 3, 4 months before they become a franchisee. Yeah. If there's premises involved, it's another 6 months to find and shop fit your premises. Yeah. So you may have no franchisees in your first year, or you may have 1 or 2 towards the end of your first year. Yeah. That's the biggest piece of advice that I would give. Time. Are you comfortable with that time frame? And then once you've got your snowball rolling, it rolls.
Yeah.
Then you might have 4 or 6 in your second year. You might have 8 or 10 in your third year.
Yeah, it goes big from there, doesn't it?
But for me, that's realistic. There are brands out there that can recruit quicker than that. I mean, it's a numbers game. If you're going to have to spend 3, 4, 5 grand on marketing to find a franchisee, you want 10 franchisees, it's 10 times 5 grand.
Yeah.
And there's still then the process to go through. Yeah. A third of franchisees take over a year to make a decision. Yeah. If you look at your database, a third of your franchisees will have taken more than a year to make that bang decision.
Yeah, they do.
So it's not a get rich quick.
No, it's not.
It's a build it slowly and steadily and have a solid foundation. So my best advice is take the proper advice, but understand the timescales and understand if you're going to do it, you're going to need to invest resources. Mm-hmm. And I don't just mean cash. I mean time, skill,
you're going to have to change your whole person out as a person. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, no, it does. It does answer the question. Yeah, I can't think of anything I wanted to cover. I wanted to kind of understand your lifestyle and how you got there. I love the part about having support from your missus. That's amazing. That. Yeah. And I like the position you're in, mate. It's a nice position to be in life.
I feel blessed.
Yeah, it's a nice position to be in.
I feel blessed. We've been married 35 and a half years.
What do the kids do? I never asked what the kids do. What do your daughters do for jobs?
So actually, my eldest is in recruitment. She's an outsourced. In fact, she's a team leader for an outsourced recruitment company.
Right.
She's in Germany as we speak.
Oh, amazing.
With her.
Do you know what sector she works in?
Tech.
Is it? Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, she's in tech.
Oh, right.
My youngest from university went to China. She was teaching in China for 4 years.
Wow.
She's been back about just over a year. She now works for the government. She works for the DfE.
No way.
As a policy advisor. So they've both been really, really successful.
Nice.
So that makes me happy.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
We're still so happily married after all this time. That makes me happy.
Yeah, I bet.
And I'm able to have a work-life balance. If I have to put 60, 70 hours in, I'll do it.
Yeah.
But then I can take some time back. So feel like I'm in a good place.
Yeah, you are. Lovely. Mate, it's so nice to meet you.
Likewise.
Yeah, mate. Nice to get to know you a bit more, mate. It's been good. I'm going to cut it there. I think it's a good podcast. I love that.